Hey guys, and welcome back to another Factorio tutorial. I'm Exterminator, and thank you for joining me. And today we are going to be covering red and green science. I'm actually going to combine both of these into one video, just kind of for, I don't know, time's sake. And really, the way I like to do it, I kind of build them both together, to be perfectly honest. So I just think it's probably a good idea that I do it in one video. So right now I am just manually making some and researching electronics because I need that to research Automation 2, which is how we get our assembling machine 2, which can assemble more parts, something with more parts than the assembly machine 1, and we need this to make the inserters for green science, because the assembly machine 1 can't assemble something with that many parts. But yeah, usually what I like to do is get that research kind of just by hand and stuff. Sometimes I'll set up red science automation just to do that, but it kind of depends on my game. As you can see, I've taken one of the smelting setups that I demonstrated last video and turned it into an actual smelting kind of facility here. For us to use. I did the one with the double lane because that is my favorite. And as you can see, I have quite a bit less copper than I do iron. I have half as much, in fact. And the reason for that is you just don't need nearly as much copper early to even mid-game as you do iron. So it's just kind of a waste to like do a 1-to-1 ratio this early in the game. I mean, you can. You have kind of unlimited resources throughout the map, but I just like to do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and continue filling these guys up. I'll probably need a few more. While we wait, though, I'm going to go ahead and do the red science part of things. So I'm thinking... What am I thinking? I'm thinking I'm just going to run these... Oh, there we go. There's that one. Let's go ahead and grab... Whoa, not that one. Not even there yet. Alright, I'm going to run these this way, and I'm thinking I'm going to do science right up in here for this little tutorial here. So, there's several ways to do it. The setup I'm going to show you is, I think, kind of a fairly common one. It may be like pointed a different direction or changed a little bit, but in general, I think it's fairly common for people who are pretty experienced with the game. And so far, it's the one I found to be my favorite and just the most efficient and best expandable, which is one of my favorite things, for it to be expandable. So, come out a little farther just so we have more than enough room here. All right. So what I like to do, let's go over this. So red science packs take 1 copper and 1 iron gear wheel. All right, so they take one. Let's see, how do I want to say this? They take they take 1 copper, and then they take 1 intermediate product, which would be the gear wheel, which you have to make from iron. So it's kind of a level 2 product, if that makes sense. And as you can say, you can fairly easily make them by hand, but you definitely want it automated. So, wow, we're going to need quite a bit more of these things. So, pretty much we just need to feed copper and then have an assembly machine making gear wheels and then feed the gear wheels into it. And again, there's many different ways you can do this. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to do it in this way I'm about to show you, but I like to do it this way. So, what I like to do is you can do it up, down, sideways. It really depends what way your lines are running, but I'm just going to do it this way since this is the way my lines are running and this is where I want it. That's actually, like right here, this is a really bad example of what you want to do. You don't want to take 100% of your resources up there, because then obviously you won't be able to do anything else with them. So what I like to do is put a splitter here and have this guy go up, and then have another splitter, and this guy, see, this becomes a little bit of a problem but one way we can kind of fix this here is to do this, and then just do a little curve. This early in the game, this loss here in these curves is not that bad. Later on, this kind of curve deal is going to be really bad, so we can just fix it, but for this demonstration, I'm going to do that. So what I like to do is bring these up here, and to make it easy, what you can do is leave yourself some space. I put one assembling machine here, and he's going to be making gear wheels exclusively. And we have our iron right here, so I just grab from this and dump it out here. Now, as we know, or if you don't know, inserters behavior works to where it's always going to place on the far side of the belt. That's just how they work. When they're placing onto a belt, they place onto the far side. That is hard-coded in. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So we know these are going to be here, right? Okay, well, there's a few things we can do, because we need to get the copper over here, right? Because usually I usually like to go with about 4 to start out with of these guys. And let me go ahead and fill these guys up here. I'm going to need a few more of these. One thing we can do is if you actually do this, when you insert onto the end of a belt this way, it will actually put it here. Let me show you as I hook this up. A little hard to explain. It'll put it in the direction the inserter is swinging, and the inserter doesn't change directions that it swings. So you see how this is going like up. If you watch it and watch my mouse, it's going up. So it's going to set it on that side. So that's one way to do it, and that's usually the way I like to do it. One other thing you could do, if you really wanted to, is if I scooted these out, if I scooted all those out, I could just put a curve here. And again, I would need to scoot them out so I could fit an inserter here, but just for demonstration purposes, let me do this. If you do this, it's going to put it again on the far side, but since it's the far side here and goes around the curve, that also puts it on the correct side of the belt. So you can do it really any of those two ways. Okay, so red science is really simple. Like once you get the hang of it to automate it, since it only needs these 2 products and one of them is just copper plates, which is easy enough, then it's pretty easy to automate. And then I just kind of eject them out the back here, and I make this a combined line of red and green, so then my green guys are going to insert from like over here onto that line. So let's go ahead, and I actually have some lights so we can see. Let's go ahead and hook these guys up. This lack of symmetry is going to drive me nuts. Alright, there we go. That should hopefully let you guys see better. I know it can be quite dark on YouTube. So now that those are automated, I'll just wait and pick them up and bring them over here. Okay, so we have that, and obviously we're running a little short on copper because I never redid this, but I usually just like to do it like that. And again, you can use any setup you want. This is just kind of a demonstration to show how to kind of throw it together, and what I like is if you leave room over here, it's very expandable. You can just like keep drawing these out. And one gear factory, especially if you leave these level 1s and make him a level 2 factory, because they do craft quite a bit faster, one gear factory should be able to support quite a lot of these. So you shouldn't really need to expand that for a good while. So let me go ahead and throw these guys in here, extend this belt so he can get resources. And I'm almost ready to move on to green science here. So I'm going to go ahead and make just a few more inserters, and I'm probably going to need some more of these guys. Pick up some more iron here. So pretty much for research while we wait. Well, it's gonna pause the game, but what I like to get out of the way first, like very first, is usually automation, just so I can use assembling machines. Like just when I first start the game, the first research I like to get done is this, and then typically logistics, so we can have our splitters and fast inserters and underground belts. You pretty much need those. And then depending on like how close to the biters I am, I either go for optics, just because I like having lights, but if I'm kind of close to enemies or have the settings up, I usually go for military. It's really quite cheap and gives you the submachine gun, which will actually hold off the biters for quite a while. And then turrets. So, I mean, there's a lot you can do with red science if you don't want to kind of rush into green science like I do. You know, there's no need to feel like super rushed for that. But let's go ahead and get started with green. Okay, so typically, let's take a look here. Now, green gets quite a bit more complicated, and for newer players, which is what this tutorial is geared towards, obviously, it can be kind of overwhelming. It was for me, like majorly. And yeah, so you can see it takes inserters and transport belts. Well, it only takes 2 materials, but we know transport belts take iron plate, that's simple, and iron gear wheels. Okay, well, we already know a good way to set this part up. We probably don't want to grab from this one, though. But transport belts are pretty simple. So that's one of the 2 things done. And then it takes inserters. And this is where it can get overwhelming for newer players. It takes gear wheels, which we already know how to do. Iron plate, which is fairly simple. And then electronic circuits. Okay, so you have 3 materials just into the inserter. Well, electronic circuits aren't just something that's like smelted out, so you have to make that, which comes from iron plate, copper cable. And the copper cable has to come from copper plate. So it can be extremely overwhelming, and I don't know, I just like to keep my things organized. Like, here, there will be a picture popping up on the screen here in just a minute of my very first factory, and you'll be able to see circled on that picture my red and green science setup. It was very, very thrown together and not expandable and all jumbled together, and that's just because I was trying to get things done, and it just didn't turn out well. So I'm kind of hoping that this can help some people, you know, not run into that kind of problem, and just hopefully plan things out a little better. Okay, so we're back. Transport belt. Okay, well, I don't really want to grab from this one. I probably could. I just like to keep things separate, you know? Assembling machines aren't that expensive. I'm probably not being particularly efficient. That is definitely for sure. So I kind of do... Honestly, I kind of do the same thing. Except we're going to need at least 1 more of those, because the green science packs take longer to craft than the red ones. The red ones take 5 seconds, and they take 6 seconds, so I usually actually make 5 of these and 6 of these, but just for now, we'll go ahead and do this. Okay, so pretty much we're the same so far. Okay, well, I grab some iron, and these are going to need to be fast inserters, more than likely. I do that, and then boom. We have a belt. Machine. Okay, we're getting there. We are definitely making progress. And again, I'm going to do a fast inserter just because. And the belts are done. You know, that's easy. That's good. We're good to go. And finally, we have this, right on time. So, I know this tutorial is a little bit slow-paced, but that's because I had to wait for that, and I wanted to show you some stuff. Okay, Now, for the circuits and inserters, here's where it becomes perhaps a little bit of a problem. And actually, just for, I know that this is not going to be symmetrical. It can be if you just space these out the same way. But I actually kind of like to do this instead. And I'll explain why here in just a second. The reason behind this is this guy's going to come down. And we don't want this, I mean, you can. It doesn't really hurt anything, but you probably don't want this grabbing from a corner. And if I'd moved it there, it would be grabbing from a corner because it can kind of mess up the flow and stuff. Okay, so I do this. The reason I do this is because the inserter will insert onto this, and it will automatically, when it hits, it'll go onto this close side here, where the belt hits, and it will go over here. The reason I do this is because our inserters are going to end up being on the other side of the belt, in the end here, and this is going to be cutting it very close, in terms of space. So, okay, onto the inserters. They need gear wheels, iron plate, and electronic circuits. Okay, well, we know we're going to want to bring these guys up here. So, I'm going to just line, I'm just going to put another gear wheel machine. Again, it might be excessive, but I'd rather have too much than too little. Okay, and a fast inserter. And then our inserter machine. Alright, and then we're going to curve our iron around this way. Another fast inserter. And see, this is exactly where we need a blue one. I did that to kind of give you a little bit of surprise. You're going to need a blue one because, as you can see, these can only craft things with 2 materials, and an inserter takes 3. So you're just going to need one blue guy, and then got inserters. So we already have 2 out of the 3 materials done for that. We have the iron and the gear wheels. And then for the circuits, we know that circuits need copper wire and iron plate. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can guess what I'm going to do. Circuit machine, copper wire. And we bring this guy, he only needs to come to here. And gonna have to disconnect this guy. Whoops. Bring our copper around. Really? 1 belt short? Come on, game. Do this on purpose. And again, we're gonna have to use long-handed inserters, and I actually like to use 2 just because of how fast this is going to need to craft. I put a fast inserter here, another fast inserter for the iron, and a fast inserter here. Because this is, you'll see, it's just going to need to craft it really quickly. And there you go. Now obviously this is going to take, this took longer here just because I was explaining things, but with a simple setup like this, it really actually doesn't take nearly as long as you might think. Wow, what perfect placement to get these sciences running. It really is not as difficult as you may think. And then we just dump it out over here. I'm gonna give these guys some power. Again, the power poles will not be symmetrical, and that actually doesn't need one. And then all we have to do is, see, now this is where it becomes a little bit of a problem. Is with your inserters here, but again, theoretically, if you do this, wow, what a spider web of power poles, good lord. As you can see, we have a little bit of a problem. And this is exactly where it can get tricky. Well, easy fix. Just do this. And then we're good to go. And I disconnected these. Of course I did. And now we're on the correct sides. And he's not quite grabbing from a corner. If you don't care about symmetry, I would suggest moving this guy over one more. Now, obviously, we need to purge this belt because it got messed up. But this should work pretty good. It'll take a minute, obviously, to catch up and have a backlog, but this works quite well. And you should have plenty of science to go around. So, whoops. I think that's going to be it for this tutorial, guys. Setting up the labs is obviously pretty self-explanatory. One quick thing is when I set up my labs, I do like to leave extra space for another run of belt to go through. So obviously, let's just say I run this guy through here, and then I actually like to leave room for another belt. I'm just doing another direction, for example, for my purple and blue science. Just so I don't have to rearrange everything, I like to set this up this way beforehand, and it makes it a lot easier. And yeah, it probably won't be too many videos until we get into blue science. So I hope this was helpful. I apologize if it was a little long, but I did want to be thorough and explain everything, so it wasn't too confusing. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed. I do hope it was helpful. And, you know, if it was, feel free to comment and leave suggestions for what you'd like to see in the next tutorial, or any feedback for this video. I do read all the comments, and I love interacting with you guys. So I think I will catch you guys in the next video, but until then, I look forward to seeing you all, and take care.